first.
A question, Fred. Are we moving forward in any buying a property on the Milwaukee Light Rail yet?
The answer is yes, we are. Those are specifically each property authorized only by you. And at the current time, they're only if there are hardship settings where an individual is facing the possibility that they can't sell a property because it might be needing to be acquired, but they may have a health reason or a financial business reason. That then would require a special application to the FTA to receive a hardship approval and must be authorized by you, the board. You have done that in a couple of, 3 places, 4?
A number of
places.
Small number of places. I don't know the exact number.
Well, I know we get a problem with Beaver and a couple of the other ones that's in the right-of-way, I take it, that we're moving to purchase in the future, I would think, right?
There are certainly properties that are being looked toward being purchased, some to the hardships through some otherwise.
Have we been assured we're going to get the federal funds for Milwaukee Light Rail?
I would say we're still working on it. We're a very well-rated project, and we've got, I think, good, strong support from the FTA. And again, no TriMet general funds are being used for these sorts of. And I would also just note, Board Member Leatherback, that really what the authorizations that you provide allow us to begin that process of acquisition. It doesn't necessarily, and most of these things will take a very long time. You mentioned beaver heat treating. It's one example where it will be a very long process to sort of see them acquired and relocated. And so the goal was to start early so that we could make sure that there was no effect on their ultimate ability to produce their products and employ their workers.
Well, I'm very concerned about the economic chaos, not only on the federal level, the state level, the county level, the city level. Everything's going down. And to move and purchase people's properties or businesses at this point in time, I think is a bad move for us. And I'd like to see, matter of fact, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we put a moratorium for 6 months and do not purchase any property or move anybody out of their businesses or personal property until we see a better picture here. And I'd like to see a stop for 6 months. So I'll make that in the form of a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I have a motion. Do we have a second? More discussion?
What is the implication of that 6 months?
I would want to be able to go back through each of the properties to see where we would be and what the effect would be. Generally speaking, to be able to stay on the critical path to achieve the project start date, avoid additional costs, and so on, we would urge that it needs to be able to march along. And although there is not absolute certainty, that is, that we do not have a contract yet with the federal government, that is a full funding grant agreement, which would not come until next year, a few months earlier than this, somewhere around in this period. The rating, as Neil mentioned earlier, that the FTA has rated this very high, that obviously the state government has committed, as they have, with $250 million of lottery-backed bonds. The City of Portland, Clackamas County, and Metro, as well as the City of Milwaukee, has committed appropriate shares as well. We think that that means that there is enough certainty to be able to make sure we don't fall off that critical path. And some of these acquisitions are going to be key in that. But again, they are relatively few. They are ones that you would need to be able to authorize us to be able to begin that discussion. Does that answer well enough?
Yeah.
Sue?
I think that would send the exact wrong signal in terms of our confidence, the confidence of this board, that with the agreements that are already in place with the City of Portland, with Metro, with the State of Oregon, the money that they've already allocated to this project, FTA, our Oregon Congressional Delegation, the entire Northwest Congressional Delegation that looks at us as the model of funding these projects and gives us more money per capita probably than any other transit district in the country, and I think that would be the exact opposite direction that we'd want to go.
Mr. President, also I'd ask Neil McFarland, incoming general manager, to consider and do something about answering the questions of just a brief about what would be the impacts of stopping, of not moving forward. And they've had a great beginning of that I've had an opportunity to look at, and I hope that they're continuing, and I'm sure, to finish that up. But it might be helpful, Neil, if the rest of the board would be able to see that preliminary part, and I think it would help to answer some of the questions that we're facing when it comes to stopping the purchasing or stopping what happens on the light rail. And I agree with Sue that it would be an opposite direction to bring it to a halt now, not only in terms of its financial implications, but I think also in terms of what is happening in our great Pacific Northwest right here in Portland.
Be happy to get that to the rest of the board. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I need to respond to that. I'm still very concerned about the economics that are going to be needed to do this. I'm not saying we stop. I voted in favor of some design movement here and some of the other things that we need to do in preparation for the Milwaukee Light Rail. But I'm uncomfortable with moving people right now. And this, I think it's Beaver that we read about, that it's going to be a very complicated process to move that business. Very complicated because of the nature of their business, and to get into that, I think we're moving too quickly, as a matter of fact. I'm not saying we're giving a wrong message. I think it's a right message to be very cautious before we move a business, take a property, without knowing we're going to get the money for this project. And I think it is in question whether we're going to get this money, frankly. With what's happening with everything, I'm more interested in not disturbing people at this point in time until we can be assured we're going to do all these things. I'm not sure we're going to do all these things. It's all based on money, and it's for money we think we're going to get. We don't have it yet. We don't have it now.
I don't know that we've had it in any previous construction project, to be honest with you, but having no second. Steve, go ahead.
I just would offer, I would not support the motion. I think we need to provide for decision-making that's taken in context, not an increment in this case. And if the evaluation that you've heard is shared with the entire board, it might provide a sense of time frame and context that can give us the confidence that we all believe in this project to go forward. We understand that you're in negotiations, and from our conversation, I believe you said in the next several months you would have some conclusive direction from the federal government. But I do believe that things happen in context, and that incrementally this decision would not be in our best interest of the project. So I would not support the motion.
Okay, I think the motion's tabled unless I have a second, and we'll move on. Yes. All right, well, we're going to close the board meeting.